Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a great show for you today. The White House is probably going to cancel $10,000 in student loan debt for borrowers who make less than $125,000 a year. We're going to read that report and talk about what that might mean for our country. The United States, of course, is sending $3 billion more in Ukraine as we continue to be the piggy bank for Zelensky and their entire country. What's interesting is, in July, none of the 6 biggest European countries provided any new military commitments to Ukraine. Why in the world would America be sending tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine when the biggest militaries in the world are doing far, far less than us? Isn't that a little odd? We'll talk about it. And also that FBI Gretchen Whitmer plot of the people who allegedly tried to kidnap her. 2 of the people have been charged today. We're going to talk about why and a little bit about that case that I know from reading media reports. It's going to be a good show today. Thanks for joining. The live starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for joining me for today's episode of Dream Rare Podcast. Before I talk about the White House student debt cancellation that is allegedly going to happen soon, I wanted to talk about the Zelensky thing because America gave $3 billion more to Ukraine. And I saw it in a tweet, and I don't just believe what I read on a tweet. That's not news. So I'm like, is it true that the top 6 countries in Europe are not giving any money to Ukraine this month? We're doling out billions of dollars to Ukraine. And I'm like, that can't be true because the media in America tells us that Putin's going to invade Europe and Europe needs to be so scared and America needs to stand with our allies. So I looked it up and sure enough, Politico did an article saying that the top 6 countries in Europe gave $0 to Ukraine in July. It's a little weird, right? If they're so worried about getting invaded, why wouldn't they be supporting Ukraine? And why are we supporting Ukraine to the tune of tens of billions of dollars? But we'll talk about that later. And I also want to talk about later, for those interested, at the end of the show, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence on TikTok is now banning Andrew Tate, not just his account, but anybody who uploads it, like we talked about the other day. All right, so let's get into the first story. I got a few to go through, then I'm going to hang out for a little bit and answer your questions, comments. If you guys agree, disagree with me, have a good take on any of my stories or yesterday's story, feel free. I will listen and put you on the screen. So CNN reports, I know it's CNN, but it's just a generic story. Everybody's doing it. And they would know because they're probably tight with the Biden administration. But it says White House leaning towards canceling $10,000 in student debt for borrowers who make less than $125,000. White House officials have been weighing and leaning towards cancellation of up to $10,000 in student loan debt per borrower tied to an income threshold. With an official announcement set Wednesday, CNN has learned. Of course, CNN and the Biden administration are like 2 peas in a pod, so of course they'd have some insight. According to multiple sources familiar with the discussions, the plan is designed to offer forgiveness to individuals who earn less than $125K per year. There's a few other little stipulations on it, but this is the big story, and there's going to be a lot of debate about it. Is it a good idea to cancel this much student loan? How many people are going to be able to cancel it? Is this going to be tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars? And, someone said the hat looks crooked. It's like, it's not really crooked. It's just smaller than my other hat, but get over it. But, as far as the story that matters, not my hat, which are available at dreamrare.com if you're interested, but maybe not if you think it's crooked. How much is this going to cost everybody else? I guess on one hand, America just prints money all the time, so maybe it won't have that big of an impact. I'm trying to kind of play both sides. On one hand, we printed $6 trillion or something for the pandemic. Every year they do $1 billion, $1 trillion omnibus bill, and now they're just printing more and more money. So is it going to make the biggest impact? I don't know. How does debt actually work when we're in tens of trillions of dollars of debt to China, allegedly, apparently, but we never pay it and it doesn't seem to matter? Our currency is doing better than Europe's now. The euro is finally below American for the first time in a long time, the US dollar. So let me know in the comment section. I want to get through all these stories before I really weigh in on my opinion, but do you think it's a good idea to cancel student debt for those who make under $125,000? How much is that going to cost? And will that lead to more inflation, which of course is just another tax on people who work, etc.? Let me know in the comments and we'll read some towards the end. Second story I want to talk about is the Ukraine story. So we sent $3 billion more to Zelensky. Ted Cruz, Rick Scott are among two Republicans who voted that we give, I think it was, I don't know, 40 or $50 billion aid package to Ukraine. It's like a revolving door now where we're just giving them hundreds of millions and billions all the time. I had to research, like I said earlier, I'm like, is it true that the top European countries aren't even giving nearly as much as us? Of course, they're not giving close to as much as us, but they're not even giving any money to Ukraine in the month of July. And the narrative we always hear, I hear two things. Why do we need to give Ukraine money? Listen, I'm not a huge Russia fan. I'm American. I love my country. Russia is a geopolitical threat in many ways, but, so are a lot of countries, and we don't just start wars with them and vice versa. But, they have invaded other countries before. They have beefed with Georgia, the country of Georgia. Crimea was a big thing under the Obama administration. Ukraine at one point was pretty much Russia. A lot of people there share mutual history. There's some Russians, millions of them, who live in Ukraine. They have a shared history. So here's all I'm going to say is I'm not really pro-Russia or pro-Ukraine when it comes to country. I'm an American citizen. I care about this country. But when I'm trying to find the narratives of Ukraine, nothing really makes sense to me just logically. Like the first thing that I always hear is we need to protect democracy in Ukraine, right? You hear that all the time. There's a democracy in Ukraine. Putin's an authoritarian, so we need to respect democracies and freedom around the world. Well, as the war started going on, Zelensky seized authoritarian power. There is no democracy there. Google everything I say, or DuckDuckGo, or Bing, or whatever you want to use. Zelensky banned 11 political parties. Zelensky passed a law through that says that you could seize assets from somebody that's pro-Russia, which could really mean anybody who disagrees with Zelensky's agenda. So he could seize assets. He banned all the political parties. He's a communist dictator in my perspective. He's consolidated all media into the state. Imagine if we broke out into a war and Biden said, you know what, there is no more Fox News, there is no more Newsmax, there is no more One American News Network. In order to fight this war, we need to get all of our media on the same exact page and join to fight the enemy. If they could do it in Ukraine, folks, they could do it here. So don't be fooled into thinking, oh, it's okay if they do it because they have to fight Putin. Well, is it okay if for us to do it if we need to fight Mexico? Is it okay for us to do it if we need to fight China? So anything you allow them to do and these people to claim is democracy when it's not, they can do the same exact thing here. Use a war as an excuse to justify total power. So I knew once I started reading it unbiasedly, we're not there to save democracy, because I would argue at this point, Zelensky's even more of an authoritarian dictator than Putin. I think Putin's next election, albeit he's going to win, is going to be more fair than Ukraine's election. I mean, they're even more corrupt and even more authoritarian than Putin. And I'm not saying Putin's not an authoritarian, but if you weigh it out, it's like Zelensky probably would have lost the last election if he had a fair election, but he banned everybody else and just consolidated the entire country into like a dictatorship. So how can you have a fair election when you ban 11 political parties? There's no media allowed to criticize you, and any of the millions of Russian citizens that disagree with your foreign policy could have their assets seized. You get what I'm saying? So we're not there for democracy, right? And then you go to this theory that it's like, well, Putin, if he takes over Ukraine, he could take over all of Europe, right? That's like the next main theory. Okay, if that's true, why aren't all the European countries supporting Ukraine? Why aren't they paying more than us? It matters more to them than it does us. The top 6 European countries in July, $0 to Ukraine for their military, and our country's doling money out. How does that make sense? I don't know. Explain it to me, but I think I know what's going on there, and it's pretty obvious. But we'll move on to the next story, and then we'll get to some of your opinions. Someone said, what do Ukrainians think of Zelensky? Well, if you read real quick before the next story, he was starting to get really unpopular. He won, just to wrap it up real quick, he won the election in a landslide, okay? He had a television show for 3 years on a big network in Ukraine called Servant of the People, where he played the role of president as just an average history teacher turned president. So he pretty much made himself the president on television. He produced the show. He's the production studio. He created the production studio. He's the star of it. He puts it on one of the biggest Ukrainian television stations, which was owned by Igor Kolomoisky, who's now banned from the United States and I believe banned from Ukraine as well. Very interesting stuff because of his bank scandal. Anyway, Zelensky gets into office because he pretty much brainwashed the entire country into thinking he was the character he played on TV. Imagine if somebody had the biggest show in America or one of the biggest shows and they're like, I'm your everyday average teacher just fighting corruption, in the country. And they brainwashed the entire country to think he was that person. So he won the election by a landslide because of his television show. Then he got into office, and as the years went on, people realized he wasn't really fighting corruption. So before the Russian invasion, maybe made him a little more popular and gave him the justification to shut down all the opposition political parties. But before the Russian invasion, there was betting odds to see if he would win the next election, and it was like a 50-50 chance. He had a very high percentage to lose the next election because he'd lost a lot of supporters by pretending to fight corruption and not really doing a good job in the eyes of many. So before the Russian invasion, he could have lost the election. After the Russian invasion, there is going to be no fair election because he banned all the political parties. And the guy whose television station helped him get to power is banned from the United States and potentially even banned from Ukraine. It's a crazy story. Pretty wild stuff, but there is no democracy in Ukraine when you can't oppose the guy without getting your asset seats. Long story short, is what it is. Believe what you want. The next story I want to talk about is the Governor Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. So 2 of the men have been arrested today, convicted in the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. So I have a full story on it, and I'm going to read it. But first, I want to read this BuzzFeed report, because this BuzzFeed report went viral because they started breaking down this plot from 2020 where a bunch of psycho right-wingers that were violent and angry were trying to, have a revolution or get rid of Gretchen Whitmer, whatever you want to call it. And BuzzFeed did this investigation, and a lot of people were like, wow, what's going on here? So I'm going to read the BuzzFeed investigation from last year first. This is straight from BuzzFeed News. They said, the government has documented at least 12 confidential informants who assisted in the sprawling investigation. So I guess there's at least 12 agents or informants that were involved in it. The trove of evidence that they helped gather provides an unprecedented view of American extremism, laying out in often stunning details the way that anti-government groups network with each other and in some cases discuss violent actions. Here's where it gets weird. An examination of the case by BuzzFeed News also reveals that some of those informants, acting under the direction of the FBI, played a far larger role than had previously been reported. Working in secret, they did more than just passively observe and report on the actions of the suspects. Instead, they had a hand in nearly every aspect of the alleged plot, starting with the inception. The extent of their involvement raises questions as to whether there would have even been a conspiracy without them. So there's this big story during the pandemic saying there's these extremists trying to kidnap the governor. And then we find out a year later that there's 12 FBI informants allegedly there, and their role in the plot was so large that perhaps there might have not even been a plot without them, according to BuzzFeed News, because they were part of the inception. So to fast forward, there already was a trial. I believe a lot of people got off, and then 2 of these guys got a mistrial. They had a retrial with what many news sources, I read a lot about it this morning, I took a long time. A lot of people were saying it was a more diverse jury. I don't know what that means, a more diverse jury. And they were apparently charged. I'm just going to read ABC News as like a generic breakdown of the case. It says a jury on Tuesday convicted 2 men of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020, delivering swift verdicts into a plot that was broken up by the FBI and described as a rallying cry for a U.S. civil war by anti-government extremists. The result was a big victory for the U.S. Justice Department. A different jury just 4 months ago couldn't reach a unanimous decision on Adam Fox and Barry Croft Jr., but acquitted 2 other men, a stunning conclusion that led to a second trial. So this is my question. I mean, here's my thing. I understand there's some crazy people out there. People talk too much. People do too much. You can't commit crimes. You can't do this stuff. On another hand, how many regular people were involved in this plot and how many FBI agents were involved in this plot? If it was like more FBI than actual people, it's a little weird. So they were trying to get off under entrapment, but I guess they didn't win the case. ABC News says the FBI turned it into a major domestic terrorism case with 2 more informants and 2 undercover agents embedded in the group. Evidence shows the group had many gripes, particularly over the stay-at-home orders and other pandemic restrictions imposed by Whitmer. Fox, Croft, and others, accompanied by government operatives, traveled to northern Michigan to see Whitmer's vacation home at night and a bridge that could be destroyed. Ty Garbin and Caleb Franks, too, were on that ride. They pleaded guilty and testified for the prosecution. Whitmer was not physically harmed. 6 men were arrested hours away from her home in October in 2020. I guess I could read the rest of it, but it is what it is. I mean, I don't know that there's that much gist to it. So I guess, one of them got charged, I believe, from what I read, over like bombs or something. They were threatening or alleging to bomb. You got to read the whole report if you're interested in it. But I guess my take on it is this. Guys, don't talk too much with your mouth. Don't say crazy stuff. Don't do crazy stuff. Like, you really got to be smart, because nowadays you have no idea whether you're talking to another person that's just making you feel like you're, oh yeah, we really are in it together. Or it could be an agent or an informant. So in general, whether it's another stupid person with you or whether it's an informant, you shouldn't be talking a bunch of crap like that. You shouldn't be doing a bunch of crap. I don't know exactly what's true or not. Unfortunately, I don't trust this story that much, but if they really did drive near her house, pick up explosives and do stuff like that as they're alleging, then you're going to get caught. Like, you're going to go to jail. I don't know. It did kind of seem a little bit like entrapment to me, so I guess they just didn't get off on that. But in general, you got to control your own self. And I know there's stupid people out there that just get carried away, say a bunch of stuff, sometimes say things they don't mean. You can end up going to jail for just, saying that stuff or pretending to do it when you weren't, or actually doing it, which is messed up. So I don't know what the story is. Obviously, I'm a little bit skeptical of it, but, it's not my business really. And in general, I don't know the true story. On one hand, I don't know that I trust, unfortunately, the agencies, and sometimes it seems like they're just setting people up. On another hand, I do know that there are stupid people. Just because I have political biases towards this party and I vote this way, it doesn't mean everybody's calm and rational. I mean, there's a lot of dumb people. In my opinion, the whole January 6th thing was like an obvious trap to an extent. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. It's not like I knew that it was that big of a trap, but people kept asking me, are you going? Are you going? Of course I'm not going. Why would I go to January 6th to listen to a vaccine salesman? Donald Trump from November to January kept tweeting about how amazing Moderna is and how he rushed the FDA and he's so proud of his vaccines and he rushed the FDA. So my logic told me I don't want to be anywhere near this vaccine salesman events. I don't trust this guy. Trump, at that point, I'm like, if he's going to oversell Moderna that hard, why in the world would I go to a vaccine rally for the guy who's convincing his base? And here's another thing on the whole January 6th. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I don't think Trump should be arrested. I think a lot of people got a bad shake and some people did something stupid. But here's the point I'm getting to. I kept talking to people and I'm like, why? Like, they're like, maybe Mike Pence will do something. Trump keeps telling Mike Pence to do something. And I'm like, Trump has Mike Pence's phone number. If Trump really wants to know if Mike Pence is going to do something, it's his vice president. It's not like Mike Pence is this mystery character who nobody knows. Will he do it? Will he not? Guys, Donald Trump picked Mike Pence. Donald Trump has his number. He could talk to him at any time. Why would he concoct this thing where he's going to go, come follow me, Patriots, and we'll see what happens? It was just sloppy, in my opinion, from the jump. I'm not saying I knew exactly what was going to happen. I had no idea that was going to go off. I thought it was just going to be a Trump rally where Trump talked and everybody just celebrated or something and then went home. I had no idea what was going to happen, but in general, people get emotional and they get, oh my gosh, I feel a certain way because I'm angry, and then they do stupid stuff. I'm not saying everybody did stupid stuff, but some people did, and that's my point in this case. I don't know if these people got set up and lied about. That's very possible. I didn't follow the whole court case. On another hand, there's a lot of stupid people out there that just go with the crowd and let their emotions get the best of them and get set up. So that's just my best advice is don't get set up. Don't say crazy stuff. Don't talk about anything violent or illegal because it's not the time to do that. It never was the time to do that, but now you have cell phones. Now you have computers. You know what I'm saying? Now you have informant. There's all this stuff everywhere. Just be a law-abiding citizen and you have nothing to worry about. But if you're, you start getting hyped up and acting like you're Mr. Macho Man and you got all these plans, you could end up in prison too. So I'm just being 100% transparent because I know everybody likes to yap all the time. And here's what I'm saying. You have the freedom of speech. Say what you believe is true. Don't back down politically, socially. Like, say what you believe is true and fair, but also say what's legal. Don't start talking awesome, illegal, crazy stuff and thinking it's just like tough guy, cool rhetoric. First of all, if you're not going to do it, that's stupid. Second of all, if you're going to do it, it's stupid. Just don't do it. The way to beat this stuff is easy and simple. It's like, take control of your own life. During the pandemic, that was going to do absolutely nothing. If they did actually do a plot like that, that would have only screwed over the whole country, because then they would have made everybody else look terrible. Then they would have made lockdowns harder and justified the lockdown. So the way is always peaceful noncompliance. The easiest thing to get rid of the pandemic restrictions would have been if every Trump supporter just sat home or went to work, or, you know what I'm saying, didn't listen on the same day peacefully. It would have all ended that way. I think that's the easiest solution, but it's all good. God bless you guys, and you don't have to agree with me. I don't care. I'm just trying to give good advice, because I know everybody likes to, beat their chest and say, and I'm not saying be a man. I'm not saying to be a baby, but don't talk crazy stuff when you could get arrested for it. That's my take, because I think, January 6th was a setup, but it's like most people were there to listen to Trump speak. Most people were there to just have a good time, and they didn't know what was going to happen. Most people there did nothing. I mean, most people who went to listen to Trump's speech did nothing. But there were a group of 100 to 1,000 people who wanted to beat their chests and wanted to act like tough guys and wanted to push police lines. And, not everybody it was at fault. I think a lot of people got rough deals, and the double standards are obvious. But you could lie to yourself and say everybody's 100% innocent and no one did something dumb. Or we could take accountability and say most people got set up, but a lot of people actually did stupid stuff. Like, just because you like Trump and they like Trump doesn't mean that person's not stupid. I know plenty of people, not like in person, but I'm just saying, like, watching videos and stuff, they're like, rah, rah, they're just like throwing a big baby fit over, it's like, it doesn't make sense. So I'm just saying, try to be smart and careful with what you do, because this is the reality. If you don't, this is what we're dealing with, unfortunately. I'm just going to hold this up. This is the ex-CIA director. He retweeted something. It said, "I've covered extremism and violent ideologies around the world over my career, have never come across a political force more nihilistic, dangerous, contemptible than today's Republicans, nothing close." Michael Hayden said, "I agree, and I was the CIA director." So he's telling you, the CIA deals with ISIS, al-Nusra, rebel groups in other countries. The CIA deals with extremists where they just cut people's heads off for having different religions than them. But the ex-CIA director said on Twitter publicly, he's not even hiding it, that he thinks that today's Republicans are more nihilistic, dangerous, and contemptible than any violent ideology around the world. That's insane. But this is who these people are. They hate you that much. It's crazy. I don't agree with most Democrats, but I would say most Democrats that just sit home and watch CNN, they're not really violent. They just have bad ideas that destroy cities and steal my taxes and make the country work. And I think they're psychotic with their pandemic restrictions, and they don't understand key levels of health. But I wouldn't sit there and say that they're worse than, rebel groups in Africa who are just slaughtering entire villages. But that's what they think of you. So you got to understand that it's not a level playing field. The people in charge don't like you. So you have one of two options, make a mistake, do something stupid, slip up, get caught, or, be aware that they hate you and try to play it smooth and smart. Be peaceful, be, legal, and don't fall for one of their traps, because they're looking for jacked up, Trump supporters to start talking big shit and get in these groups and start talking about plots. They want that to happen. They want to arrest you. So, the smartest thing you could do is not do that, because one, it's dumb, but also it's like playing right into their hands. That's just my personal opinion, but if people want to do stupid stuff, it's your life, not mine. I can't control you, but that's just the best thing I could say, because I know a lot of people get hyped up, and it's like, it's not the era to do that. Everything's being recorded all the time, and they're going to try to get you. It's just my opinion. I'm not paranoid, I'm just realistic. Speaking of how technology works nowadays, Sagar Njiti, I think Sagar? I think he has a show, Crystal and Sagar. He said the Andrew Tate ban is probably the most dystopian yet. At the behest of fake nonprofits and activists, the largest social media platforms effectively unpersoned him in the last 72 hours. His accounts not only got banned, but even duplicate videos of him speaking get targeted. So he showed TikTok's policy, and it says TikTok is using software to identify and stop re-uploads of videos found to violate its community guidelines. So long story short, just like I kind of predicted earlier this week, they're not only banning Andrew Tate. If you guys don't know who he is, I'll try to explain it in a second. They're not only banning Andrew Tate from TikTok, but they're basically using artificial intelligence to scan anybody who re-uploads his videos to take it down. This is like a mass blanket ban that's even more extreme in some cases than some things they're doing with Trump. Sagar mentioned that they ban Trump's videos when Trump talks about election fraud and stolen elections, but they don't ban Trump's videos elsewhere. I mean, even a lot of Trump videos are still on Facebook and YouTube, etc. But they're going really hard at Andrew Tate and trying to just completely erase him from social media totally. A lot of people have opinions on Andrew Tate. I talked about mine earlier, but this is the realest thing I can say about it. He's done a lot of things that I would consider immoral and wrong, and I don't agree with everything he does as a person. But if he was just doing immoral things, they wouldn't care. And people can't weigh these two things out in their head for some reason. If you look at music bans, Eminem has crazy songs about rape and beating up his wife and killing his wife. Like, these songs are still allowed on Spotify, and that's fine, I think, in my opinion. I mean, I don't want to listen to him anymore like when I was a kid, but there's songs about robbing grandmas. There's songs about petty theft. There's millions of songs about gang violence, when gang violence is killing black people in the streets all the time, and Black Lives Matter, but the gang violence songs can stay. The only song I've ever seen banned from YouTube or Spotify has been Bryson Gray and Patriot J for talking about either LGBT stuff or talking about vaccines. They've banned a Patriot J song for talking about Big Pharma and questioning the narrative of Big Pharma and side effects on certain vaccines. So this is the point I'm trying to get. They're not interested in immorality. If they wanted to get rid of every immoral song, they'd ban 80% of rap songs, but they leave them up because they don't mind if people are killing each other in the streets. They don't mind if our country's falling apart. They don't mind if young kids grow up with role models of gangbangers. What they care about is people who criticize Big Pharma and people who criticize the government via a theory that they might agree with or not, whether it's real or not. But there's millions of rap songs with lies and evil and wickedness. So when you get to Andrew Tate, a lot of people don't understand it. Well, they're like, I don't like him. He's a bad guy. So even though I'm right wing, I don't care. Just get rid of it. And it's like, you're a fool if you think that TikTok and Facebook and YouTube are banning Andrew Tate because he's a bad guy. You think they're banning him because of his webcam scams, and you think they're banning him because of what he's done. No, they're banning him because he's effectively broken the spell in a lot of kids of this left-wing ideology of you should hate yourself, men should be women, your gender doesn't exist, be depressed, don't be a strong kid, lockdown for a year, force mask the students. Like, this is what kids are dealing with nowadays. Their parents failed them, the media has failed them, their government failed them, and these kids that nowadays probably don't know what the hell they're doing because it's like a foreign concept to actually be a boy, and you're not allowed to love yourself. You have to think it's cool to put a mask over your nose and your smile and have zero identity, which is just wildly psychologically abusive. So this is why they're mad at him, because millions of kids are looking at him and they're like, oh, I want to be alpha. Oh, I think there is a difference between a man and woman. I want to take care. This is why they're mad at him. I'm not saying I agree with everything he says. I'm not saying I haven't heard immoral stuff, but if he just said immoral stuff, he'd be highlighted. He'd be praised. He'd be the new Lizzo. That's what they like. They love immorality. They love sloth. They love greed. They love theft. That's how many songs are inspiring people to kill their neighbors in inner cities? How many songs are inspiring people to do petty theft? It's in every rap song. Not every rap song, but a lot of them. That doesn't get banned, but a song about vaccines gets banned. All of these people trying to make your son a daughter, they won't get banned. That's okay in the free market of ideas because that's their opinion. But, Andrew Tate gets banned and they're shadow banning him from everything. So all I want to say, to right-wingers who are cheering on his demise because they don't like him morally and they think this is good that he's getting banned, what they're replacing him with is far, far worse, and he's the pendulum swinging the other way. And this is really why, in my perspective, a lot of right-wingers lose, because even at CPAC or Turning Point USA, for example, they allow the far left to come in, but they don't want people that they consider too far right. I'm not even far right by any means when it comes to socially, or my content's very not hateful, etc. But in general, I had trouble almost getting into the event because I was questioning Ted Cruz. So this is why Republicans and conservatives lose. When Andrew Tate gets banned, even though he's been more effective than any conservative in the world to, shift the worldview of far leftism in kids, they say, oh, that's fine because he did immoral stuff. When Alex Jones got banned, they said, oh, who cares? I mean, it's just Alex Jones. He's crazy. And then Jim Jordan started getting banned. And now all of a sudden, Jim Jordan cares. Oh, well, it's too late, Jim Jordan. You deserve to get banned because you turned your back on people when they got banned. Now all of a sudden, Donald Trump gets banned. Of course you're going to get banned. Milo got banned. Alex Jones got banned. All your biggest supporters got banned. You didn't do anything about it. And now you're getting banned. You're playing catch up. It's too late. You deserve to. I'm not saying I want it to happen, but if you ignore your biggest supporters getting banned, it's eventually going to go up the pyramid. The lesson to be learned is if you don't say anything when they ban that person, that person, that person, that person, when there were no bans and we used to have First Amendment on the internet, it's going to get to you eventually. It doesn't matter if you're left wing or right wing. If you in any way question the regime or question the narrative, you're not living in a free country. You have Google, Facebook, TikTok, so now that they're banning Tate, a lot of people are like, oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll see what they replace him with. That's fine. And then they're going to come for you. And people are saying, oh, well, he had a few views I disagree with. Who cares? Then debate him. But the problem is, a lot of people can't. And that's the game they play. So if you're right wing, but you're a dissident who questions the Republican Party in an honest way that would actually make them better, they're trying to brush you out of the sphere of Republicanism, but they'll allow somebody that's a far lefty journalist or somebody that's super far left wing that, dresses in drag, that's okay. So it's a big open tent in the Republican Party for leftists, but not for people who are right and dissident. And it's the same thing on TikTok and YouTube and everything. They get rid of people. Oh, it's just Alex Jones. Oh, it's just Andrew Tate. Okay, it's like, no, they're not getting rid of him for all of his flaws. He has a lot of flaws. There's a lot of takes he have that I consider immoral. I don't even follow his worldview when it comes to how he views, like he thinks multiple women is cool. But here's the thing. I think overarching, when I listen to Andrew Tate, I agree with like 70 to 80% psychologically of what he's saying. And as a man, I could look at the rest of it and say, I don't agree with that. I think that's immoral. I think that's scammy. I wouldn't do that. But I'm not trying to rip his tongue out because I find him fascinating. I mean, everybody that I've seen that's like, oh my God, who cares? It's like, he's more interesting than you. He has better points than you. He's funny. I just find it interesting that, so many people are okay with his banning. If you ever get banned, I wonder if people are going to bring up your worst moments or your worst takes and say, oh, well, that justifies their ban. If somebody did something illegal, they can be charged and prosecuted for it. But as far as speech, I'm not offended by speech that questions my idea of a relationship. I'm not offended by speech that questions my religion. I'm not offended by speech that questions my thought process on how to date or, view the opposite sex or whatever, power dynamics. That is the least threatening thing to me at all. So, I think, unfortunately, what he did is made a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And you see in this society, gender roles have completely changed. And some people could say it's for the better, but in a free society, you should be allowed to say it's worse. It's like, and by the way, on Friday, I'm having on Uncle Tom's star Chad Jackson to talk about integration and Martin Luther King and talk about the other side of that coin. He's a black man himself. I'm obviously the color I am, but it's not saying that it's bad that people came together. It's just how the government did it was inauthentic and messed up, and the government stole a lot of stuff from people, and that was a huge issue. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, when you say make America great again, it doesn't mean you're trying to go back to the 1700s when people were racist. It just means there were parts of the past that were better. Like the food quality was probably better in the 1900s. We didn't have access to as much stuff, but I bet you the soil was better and the meat was more real and the plants were more real. It doesn't mean you're a racist. It just means you identified that there's things about the past that were better and some things that were worse. And when it comes to that with female roles, I think that's why they probably banned Andrew the most, not because of all his flaws and immorality, but because he, on a massive scale, bigger than anybody in a couple years, more than the Republican Party, who does nothing in this. They don't want to talk about this because it's taboo. They'd probably call him a sexist like Dave Portnoy did. But in general, it's like he's questioning the man and woman roles, and he's trying to go back to traditionalism, maybe too extreme for some people, and that's fine. I don't want you to have to agree with him, but to rip out his tongue, I think they're pushing him back because he was effective. And you look at the olden days when women were mothers and women weren't in politics and women didn't have to worry about all this stuff and they were homemakers and they didn't work at a certain point. You can make the argument that it's better now. You want to work. You want to you want to be in politics, you want to do all this. But in a free society, I think someone should be allowed to argue the opposite. Because in many ways, I'm sure women are more free than they used to be, right? But freedom isn't always happiness. Sometimes discipline is happiness. So, I find a lot of women that are happy have a family or have a loved one or maybe have kids. I know people that said when I had kids, it was the happiest moment of my life. So maybe it was better in many ways back then. You're not allowed to say it now. It's because our society is dominated by people that can't have an honest discussion about anything. So, the further we slide from reality, the more taboo and the more banned people are going to get who talk about traditionalism. Obviously, Andrew's an extreme example, but that's where they start. They start with the more extremely bold, and then they work their way down and say that you're not allowed to talk about gender. They're already doing it. So, I try to defend, whether I fully agree with people or not, the censorship, because usually I could get to the core of why they're censored. Alex Jones has made plenty of mistakes. So has CNN. CNN's been sued and lost lawsuits before and settled out for lying. So how come CNN doesn't get censored the same time? How come I lose my reach on Facebook when I don't even make a mistake because the fact checkers are lying, but you could have mainstream media make a mistake and they don't get in trouble? How come I got punished for reporting the Snake Island story properly, the Ukrainian Snake Island story? I'm not trying to make fun of people, but almost everybody got the story wrong. I believe Daily Mail, Fox News, CNN, every right-wing account I followed on Instagram, I'm not going to name them, but all of these pro-Trump Instagram accounts, they all got the Snake Island story wrong. Dan Crenshaw, they all got it wrong. I was one of the only ones who didn't report on it because it sounded fishy. Then I did the investigation. I was one of the first ones to break that the story might not be true, and I said it completely accurately. Then I followed up on it, and I confirmed from the Ukrainian government that it wasn't true. And I didn't make a mistake. I was one of the only news sources in the entire internet that didn't fall for that story. Yet I got in trouble for that. So the point I'm trying to make to people with Andrew Tate is the internet doesn't run around and ban people for being bad. They ban people that are effective in countering their narrative. Whether it be extreme or not, somebody that doesn't agree with them, that's who they're banning. They're not running around banning the most immoral people in the country. They're running around banning anybody who reaches a certain threshold of effectiveness to reaching tens of millions of people to counter their narrative. It's social engineering. So for any right-winger that cheers for his demise, that's fine, but what they're going to replace him with is going to be something far worse. And this is why the other side is getting worse, is because they're not interested in having debates and challenging themselves. They're just interested in wiping their opposition out of the arena so it makes them right. So we'll end on this note, and I'll get to your questions and comments. That has happened to the left wing. They've become so stubborn and so delusional because they're not interested in having debates and conversations, and they throw these buzzwords: racist, sexist, xenophobic, climate denier, anti-vaxxer. They throw these words out of context to anybody who questions them and just thinks it makes them right. Well, that's a conspiracy. I mean, can we have a conversation about it? I won't call you a name if you don't call me a name. They can't do it. They've bought into their worldview and they don't want to be challenged. So that's what's made them so weak and pathetic. And it's happening on the right too, to a certain extent, like we talk about here. There's a lot of people too who are, I think, a little bit more awake than a left winger, but they've, haven't been challenged in a long time. So if I make a video questioning Trump, I see a lot of people's brains spiral. And unfortunately, I read all the comments. And I'm open to people who make sense, but very few people make sense when I challenge him because their brain is just spiraling because they've sat in an echo chamber for 2 years of people who haven't challenged them. To be an intellectual, you have to challenge yourself. To be a fighter, you have to train. To be an athlete, you have to work hard. There is no winning by just making fun of the other side all the time. That's the dynamic that both sides are doing, which is making this country a lot worse, But to be optimistic, before I get to your questions, the great part about this is with all this technology, with all this, there's so much opportunity everywhere. If you want to create a business, there's never been a better time. There's probably thousands upon tens of thousands upon millions of millionaires who've made millions on YouTube and Facebook and Amazon. So it's like, if you don't buy into the echo chambers and just become a psycho or a weirdo, you could be a little weird. It's fun to be weird sometimes. Normal people are boring, so being nerdy or weird is cool, but you get what I'm saying? The flip side of this equation is not to be all down about it and be like, well, what do I do? It's like, if you focus your energy on something that matters and work hard and provide value to this world, people will either pay you or appreciate you or respect you. So I find that with all this technology and all this opportunity, people are just doing nothing. I would say the most popular thing to do is to sit around and, like people love to just debate about Trump or they hate him. And, it's like, that's fine. We talk about it here too, but please, if you take anything from this live stream, figure out what your passion is, your craft, your business, even if it's your personal life, your family, whatever it is, make something happen, because this world has so much potential. We have so many blessings out here, and most people are completely squandering them. Most people are squandering all of this raw potential out there and doing nothing, which makes it easier for you to succeed or thrive, because if everybody's being so dumb, then that's a void that you could fill and be successful. I try to remind myself that so I don't get annoyed, because sometimes people always tell me like, I'm so annoyed at what's going on. Like, what's the solution? I'm like, don't be like that. You know what I'm saying? If you're not like that, it should be easy to thrive. And that's why with the Whitmer thing, I don't know what really happened in that plot, but the judge decided my opinion doesn't matter. What I was trying to explain to people is like, once you figure out what you're doing, you won't be so angry all the time. Sometimes people that, and I get passionate, don't get me wrong, you saw my stream yesterday, but in general, it's like sometimes the people that are so mad at politics, it's like displaced anger because they haven't figured it out. They're like wrong about what they're angry about. The left wing, they're so angry about abortion laws, and I'm sorry, but they're wrong about a lot of their takes and they don't understand why. So anger doesn't necessarily mean you're righteous. It's good to be passionate. It's good to stand up for yourself and have some oomph, but to just be like raw angry, whether you're left wing or right wing, a lot of times that roots from just you not even knowing what's going on. Like, you're angry because Mike Pence didn't change the election. You're wrong. I'm sorry. I don't care how many people tell you right. You're angry at Brett Kavanaugh. Sorry. That's not the battle to pick in this world. You're wrong. So once you break out of that spell and kind of figure out what's going on, the beautiful inspiration and the not like doomer and gloomer, the opposite of that is like, oh, if everybody else is so lazy, if everybody else is so brainwashed, if everybody else is running circles around Trump or Biden, then that means there's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of business to do. There's so many, like, when someone comes to me with an idea that makes sense, I'm ready to do it as a businessman. Like my guy who helps me with the merch and runs his business, and we've collabed on that. He came to me and said, hey, Anomaly, I do a lot of merch and I do a lot of stuff for some rappers. He showed me his resume. It was great. He was cool. Now we work together. Now we make money together. That's the beautiful thing. It's like, if you're awake and you're ready to make a move, there's a lot of moves to be made. So that's because everyone always gets mad at me and they're like, well, what's your solution if it's not Trump or DeSantis? And I'm like, I don't care who you vote for. You vote for either one of them if they run. But I just want people to focus on their reality and their life, because I think that's going to change the country. Let's see. Something feels off about the recent SCOTUS rulings. I don't know which ones you're talking about, but let's see. Someone said Rothschilds have hidden 10% of the total world value under the Getty Museum. I mean, that sounds not true, but if you want to believe that, that's fine. I don't believe it. And to me, it sounds like a setup. You're like, occupy the Getty. I'm not saying you're a setup, but that sounds like a setup. It's like, hey guys, follow me to this event and we're going to go get the Rothschilds' money. Sounds like a trap to me. I mean, if you really think that, like, it's your life, you could believe what you want, but I don't trust that. It's like, yeah, come with me. We're going to go get the Rothschilds' money. It's like, I'm not going, bro. I don't believe that. I'll get my own money. I'm not jealous of the Rothschilds. I don't need their money. If they have their money hidden, that's fine. I'll make my own. And then the government will steal it. It's fine. I like how they operate, because, I mean, I don't like how they operate. Taxation's theft and it's ruining our country. But in general, it's like, if you have everything, it doesn't make you happy. You could have $1 trillion and be miserable, It's like, you could have everything and not appreciate it. I appreciate everything because I worked hard for it. I'm glad I started where I started. I'm glad I had to work for 10 years. I'm glad I was broke. I'm glad I didn't have a car for 7 years, because now I like driving, So, the struggle makes it great. I'm not jealous of the Rothschilds. If they want to hide their money or it's like, I bet you I've had a better time than them. I bet you I'm having more fun than the Rothschilds. They're just like, money, money. And maybe they're not. They're like, fact check, that's anti-Semitic. It's like, okay, we'll just all pretend like the Rothschilds are in a banking family or something. They just lost all their wealth. Sure, whatever. Whatever you guys want to believe in the fact checker department. They're like, fact check, banks have no power. The Federal Reserve is working for you. It's like, okay, sure. Maybe, yeah, but probably not. I would assume bankers and people in high positions probably have a lot of power. But if you want to believe they don't, in the fact checkers, fact check, banks are the victims and the real bad people are plumbers who vote for Trump. It's like, that doesn't sound right. They're like, these poor billionaires are getting harassed. Bill Gates is getting harassed on Twitter. It's like, that sucks. I'm not for that, but maybe people just don't agree with him. Someone said, yes, the Getty thing sounds like a setup. This is the whole point I'm making. It's like, just don't follow anybody that's like, come follow me. It's like, don't follow them. I'm not knocking that guy, but it's like, I guarantee you, if you occupied the Getty, you're not going to find the Rothschilds' money. If anything, you're either just going to go to a museum that everyone else has access to, or you're going to get arrested. I don't know, though. It's like, whatever. People do a lot of weird stuff. I'm not trying to knock you, my guy, but that sounds like a setup to me. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it sounded weird. Let's see. Read a comment. Someone said, we're going to dig. I'm not listening to nobody anymore. Follow me, Patriots, to the Capitol. I'm like, nah. I'm telling people why. I mean, there's 2 reasons that I didn't go to the Capitol. I'm going to tell people the insight that I had. 2 reasons. Ready? The first reason I didn't go to January 6th in the Capitol, I'm not a professional activist. What the hell am I going to fly to D.C. for? Like, what? I'm going to take a 12-hour round-trip flight so I could march in the street? I'm not a professional activist. People don't pay me to activism, and I don't see where it was going anyway. It just didn't make sense to me. So I'm like, why would I fly to D.C.? What, I'm going to spend $1,500 to wear a mask on an airplane to cry in the streets for Donald Trump? That doesn't make sense. I wanted him to win the election, but it's like, why would I fly 12 hours and pay thousands of dollars to just stand in the street? What's that going to do? I'm a strategic activist. I'm not even an activist, but you get what I'm saying? It's like, I'm going to spend thousands of my dollars, wear a mask for 6 hours on an airplane to go yell in the streets at Mike Pence? That sounds dumb. Okay, there's one reason I didn't go. Another reason, I didn't trust Donald Trump. People can hate me, but my insight could have got a lot of people out of trouble if they would have had the same insight. Oh, I didn't agree with you, but I went to, it's like, what? He kept selling Moderna vaccines, and I'm like, why would I go to DC to spend thousands of dollars to listen to a guy on Twitter selling Moderna vaccines? Okay, when I'm locked down for 5 months, the last person I'm trusting right now is a vaccine salesman for Moderna. Like, that's not my leader. That's not somebody worth flying to go listen to speak. So people can hate on that, but if you want to get inside my head, those are the 2 things that I was thinking. It's like, I'm not flying to DC. Why would I do that? I'm not like, because we got to yell at Mike Pence in the streets. It's like, why? Why do you have to yell? Because he's going to overturn the election. Why? Like, these are the questions about, why would he overturn the election? What are you talking about? Like, maybe in some sort of crazy Hail Mary, but how would Mike Pence? By sending the electorates back. Sending them back to the people who already sent them in, he can't change the votes. He can only decertify something, which has never been done, maybe hundreds of years ago. It's like, it's just not, whatever. Someone said you sound like a broken record. You sound like somebody that gets upset at what I say, so then you try to like project onto me and say I sound like a broken record. I bet if I said something you agreed with 50 times in a row, you'd be like, yeah. But if I say like something for a minute that you disagree with that challenges your cognitive dissonance, you're like, whoa, I don't want to hear that. It hurts my feelings. I want to run back to my people who tell me it's so cool. Then watch them. I appreciate my audience. I'm very grateful. At the same time, it's completely optional. This is not a prison. It's not a multifaceted Scientology thing where you pay me to get access. I mean, obviously I have a Patreon and supporters, but 99.99999% of my content's free, and it's going to stay that way. My podcast is free. I'm losing money putting it out, but that's fine. I just want to get the information out there. You don't have to be here, but I do appreciate your feedback. Thank you, Scotty. Let me see. I'll read a few comments. Let's see what you guys are saying. Someone said Trump selling Moderna was the biggest failure ever. I'm going to do a whole video on the whole Operation Warp Speed stuff because I need to document it, or else I seem like that crazy meme, like of Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's drawing and he looks like a lunatic. I sound like that when I don't have the information behind me. So I have to this week, 2 videos I'm trying to make. After this is done, I'm starting to get to work. I need to make a video calling out the fact checkers for lying about me. That's the priority. And then I'm going to make a little 15-minute like documentary piece about Trump's Operation Warp Speed. And it's going to be the best thing that you've seen talking about that. We're going to talk about the pharmacy lobbyist stuff, the money he took, and every step of the way how he's involved in it, even without the mandate. So I got to get to it. It's a lot of work though. MP said man and woman's strengths and weaknesses are meant to complement one another, not compete against each other. Our Savior Jesus already came. The rest is up to oneself or in complement with your spouse, and that's your calling. Thank you, MP. I have a video on my Twitter because I don't think I could post it on Facebook or anything. I don't know it's legal, but I watched, it's still on YouTube, Andrew Tate talking to Dave Portnoy, and he talks about the roles of men and women. And Dave Portnoy sounded like such a beta feminist. I'm not saying you have to agree with Andrew Tate, but it's like he was making a point about the differences between a man and a woman. And Dave Portnoy's like, that's sexist. That sounds sexist. And I'm like, Dave Portnoy is like a beta feminist. By the way, I ratioed Dave Portnoy. God is great. Dave Portnoy and Alex Stein started fighting each other on Twitter. And I chimed in and told Dave that, good luck with his abortions and getting dominated by women, or controlled by women rather. Not dominated, but I was like, and I ratioed Dave Portnoy, and then the Hodge twins said you should box Dave Portnoy, and I said sure. So if Dave wants to box, I'm down to do a celebrity boxing match. We can give some of the money, the charity money, to abortion survivors, since Dave loves abortion so much because he wants to just nut in people and not think about it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I was standing up for Alex because I like him, and it was pretty funny. I ratioed Portnoy and told him he was a beta. Pretty funny. What are my thoughts on Trump aligned with David Icke's recent explanation? Well, listen, I want to give David Icke credit too. And for the fact checkers and the little gremlins here, I'm not David Icke, okay? I don't say everything he says. We're different people. We have different beliefs about the world. But I have to give credit to David Icke on this. He's been ahead of the curve with Trump for years. He's been right about Trump for years. And here's the difference between me and people. And not everybody, but some people. When I used to really like Trump a lot, I would still listen to other takes of people who didn't like him. And David was one of the people I would listen to because he never liked Trump. He always said Trump was a liar and a sellout, and he was always a deceiver. That's what David Icke always used to say. I would still listen to his stream and be like, maybe, I don't think so, but I don't know. And then as time goes on, I started seeing what David was talking about. So I'm not saying everything David's ever said I agree with, because I don't, but when it comes to his take on Donald Trump and why he was never really the one people thought he was, I think David was right way before I was about Trump. That's just my opinion, because I used to listen to him years ago, and he always was talking about stuff I didn't want to hear. But he was, he made a point, and I'm seeing it now. And, I was just giving Trump the benefit of the doubt, because I'm like, he didn't do that much bad stuff yet. I'm not going to just poo-poo him. Yeah, he might be here, there, but I'm not going to write him off. I thought he was doing a good job. And then, everything David talked about kind of happened. So pretty interesting stuff. Let's see. All right, do a few more comments. Let's keep it under an hour. Someone said, we get it. You hate Trump. Now move on. You're not listening to me, Terry. I'm not saying I hate him. I'm saying someone asked about another analyst, David Icke, or another conspirator, whatever you want to call David Icke. Someone asked a question about what he said about Trump, and I answered it with my own personal experience. You're projecting on me. I don't just irrationally hate him. You worship the guy, so you can't handle any sort of analysis outside of it. Grow up. Get your own identity. It's pathetic. I never acted this way. Even when David Icke used to hate on Trump 4 years ago, I never was spiraling in his comment section. Oh my God, David, oh my God, don't criticize Trump. I never acted like that. Grow up. Oh my gosh. It's like a bunch of 6-year-olds and 50-year-olds acting like babies. I'm 32. I shouldn't be the adult in the room. Grow up. David and other people used to do analysis on Trump of things I didn't want to hear, and I wouldn't sit there and cry about it. I would just be like, I never thought of it that way. I don't agree with that, but to each their own. I mean, that is a good point. He did challenge my worldview. That's how I used to act 3 years ago when I liked Trump as much as you. I never acted like you. That's why you're constantly getting fooled, because you act like a baby with a binky. Trump is your binky. You're like, And then someone takes your binky out and you go, wah, wah. It's like, turn on Sean Hannity then with the CIA pin. He'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. It's like big binky babies. Welcome to the Big Binky Baby Show with a bunch of binky babies who have the Trump binky in. It's like I literally just do a thing. I'm like, here's the pharmacy lobbyist that he put at the head of Human Health Services. Here's the executive order he passed. Here's the money he printed. And he's like, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying because I get it. He's your binky. He's your baby binky. I get it. There's a lot of baby binky influencers out there that do baby content for 3-year-olds. You could sell it to a 3-year-old and they go, Trump, you get your baby a Trump binky. Oh, Trump 2024 binkies for your baby. And it's like, what if I want the binky and not my baby? It's like, well, aren't you too old for a binky? Not if it says Trump on it. It's like, I don't hate him. It's just like people like spiral when you even say anything. It's so weird. I'm even I posted a video of him the other day where she was asking about gain of function and he just starts bragging about vaccines. It's just so funny watching people get mad at that because I'm doing this experiment in my head. Say I did that. Say Candace Owens did that. Say DC Drano did that. Say the Hodge twins did that. Say Ted Cruz did that. Say Mitch McConnell did that. Say anybody in the Republican movement or conservative movement did that. Say anybody said exactly what he said and dodged the question that hard. That same person that's mad that I posted that would say Candace is a fake, Anomaly's a fake, Drano's a fake, the Hodge twins are fake. If any of us did that or Ted Cruz did that, she'd say you're a fake and that's bad. But because it's her baby binky, she can't process the fact that her baby binky did something that's not a bad boy. Baby binky was bad. And it's a complete like mental spiral to the point where it's like, oh, you're hating on him. Oh my gosh, that's my. It's like, no, you know, it's so pathetic. It's like literally, if you replace that exact thing in any other right wing influencer, you'd have no problem being like, wow, that was the fakest thing I've ever heard. That was the biggest dodge ever. Ted Cruz is a phony. Mike Pence is a phony. Take exactly Trump's quotes and put it in Mike Pence. I guarantee you that same person would have no problem saying, he's a rhino. He's not on our side. He's controlled opposition. But when the baby binky says it, all the baby binky boys and girls come out and say, like the Maggie from The Simpsons, and say, oh my gosh, this is my whole world. I need my binky. Then buy your MAGA binky. Buy your boomer binky. And I'm not making fun of boomers because we love the boomers. I know there's people like, Anomaly, I'm 60 and I agree with you. It's fine. I like boomers. We make fun of millennials and Gen Z sometime too. It's not everybody. I'm a millennial, but let's not get upset. We can make fun of generations and it doesn't mean you're in on it. I, for one, as a representative of the millennials, I condemn millennials. Someone said those are bloomers. The word boomer is just funnier than millennial, in my opinion, but someone said, is any president perfect? However, Trump has provided us with a strong economy and strong borders. The border's not strong. Hundreds of thousands of people are coming over every month. When he was in office, 50,000 people were coming over every month, which is way too many. And the economy's not strong when you literally print $6 trillion. The economy imploded harder in 2020 than ever before. And I don't want to hear, well, a virus came along. Then you're done. You know, it's like you're living in a fake reality. Your world doesn't exist. He's better than Biden, but so is this napkin, okay? This is better than Joe Biden. So if they're able to make you think in binaries and say, well, Joe Biden, I mean, what do you want? This one or this one? You're thinking like an animal. I'm not trying to be rude, but that's how animals think. Should I eat grass or should I walk in a straight line? If you act like an animal, the elites treat you like an animal. Act like a human, think like a human, use the brain God gave you, and they'll stop treating you like cattle. But if you act like a cattle and say, if it's not blue, it's red. I mean, the economy was booming under Trump, except for when it wasn't. Yeah, for 3 years it was going up, 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 and then he crashed the economy and bragged about it and has never apologized for it. But you think that's cool? You're acting like an animal, and the elites are going to keep treating you like that. Seriously. I'm past the point of thinking anybody deserves anything anymore. I don't think this country deserves freedom. I don't think this country deserves liberty because people just want to suck on a baby binky, a fake little baby binky, and they spiral when somebody tells them the truth. He did a better job with border security than Biden, sure. But the economy was not booming under Trump. It was for 3 years, and then it wasn't. But guess what? The fourth quarter matters. If Tom Brady throws 3 touchdowns in the first, second, and third quarter, but then he throws 50 interceptions in the fourth quarter and they lose the game by 20, it doesn't matter what he did in the first 3 quarters because he lost the game. Trump loses. When it comes to the economy, he lost. He didn't have a good economy. That's a brainwashed MAGA tactic. Yeah, for the first 3 quarters, he had a great economy. But in the fourth one, he took the economy, threw it in the toilet, and then said, hey, I'm the vaccine guy. And you guys clap like seals. You're acting like what they're treating you. I don't believe anybody deserves anything anymore. It's like if you act that way, you're going to get treated that way. You respect yourself, other people will respect you. You work hard, you get results. You think and use the brain that God gave you, you get human treatment. But you act like an animal and they treat everybody like cattle. Put on your mask, get your vaccine, and pick baby binky blue or baby binky red. I want red baby binky. I want the blue baby binky because there's 2 big babies on both sides. It's like, do you want to be a Democrat baby with your baby binky? They have a blue baby binky in their mouth and they say, I'm a Democrat. I hate Trump. I think the Capitol is the worst thing ever. I want him to be arrested. I'm going to suck on my baby binky and listen to Brian Stelter. And then you listen to the right wing and they're like, I want Trump. He's my baby binky. I have no identity outside of Trump. I can't handle the truth. His economy was booming for 4 years straight. No, it wasn't. He crashed it in the fourth quarter for Big Pharma, and he doesn't care, and he's never apologized for it. And you suck on your baby binky because you don't want to hear it. Bunch of big babies. Politics where 30 to 60-year-olds come to act like 3-year-old babies, and I come through 32, younger than almost everybody in corporate media, acting like an adult in a gym shirt. It's pathetic. I shouldn't be the biggest adult in the room. Why are adults such babies? Some serious armchair quarterbacking going on here. Thank you, Salty Apostle, for saying, yeah, if only I was doing this reporting in 2020. Oh, wait, I was. Oh, my gosh. Oh, sorry, Salty. Oh, if only I knew at the time. Oh, I actually did. I did all the reporting in August. I still have the receipts right here. Oh, if only I knew at the time. Oh, you mean like this? Literally calling him a communist and saying he's defending medical tyranny in April? Is that what you're talking about? If armchair quarterback? If only I knew at the time, right? Oh, yeah, hindsight's 2020, except for the fact that I actually literally said it at the time and nobody listened. Someone said these hilarious gammas are coming at you. It's a gamma parade. Bring on the gammas. I don't care anymore. These people, it's like, oh my gosh. You should have seen when I ratioed Dave Portnoy. I had all these left-wingers coming at me. They're like, I can't believe this is a real person. I'm like, what? You can't believe I'm a real person? What are you used to? All right. I lost my little thing. Let's see. Someone said, I heard you back then. Let's see. Someone said, it's easier to talk when you are not on someone else's shoe. Only God knows what in the world Trump has to face that we have no clue about, to be fair. When I read comments like this, Mary, God bless you, it makes me realize why Republicans deserve nothing. It's like, I mean, who knows what he dealt with? I mean, what in the world did he deal with that made him run around the country selling a vaccine for a year and a half and lying about lockdowns and saying it saved 100 million lives? Mary, you deserve everything that's coming, Mary. You deserve it, okay? You don't deserve freedom. You don't deserve liberty. You don't deserve prosperity. You don't deserve low inflation. You deserve all of this. You deserve Biden. You deserve high inflation. Well, I mean, I'm just going to make excuses for this guy for years because who knows what he was dealing with? I don't know. Who knows? We'll never know because nobody ever asks. Nobody cares. So we'll never know. We'll just fail as a country. So pathetic. I'm not trying to be rude, Mary, but it's just pathetic. I mean, maybe somebody lied to him, so he just became a totally different person and ran around the country selling vaccines and lying and saying they saved 100 million lives and putting pharmacy lobbyists at the head. I'm sure it's really hard. I'm sure it's really tough. It's got to be hard for him to lie to his own audience and brainwash people like you into thinking he's a good person when he's evil. Must be tough, yeah. I'm sure God's looking down on him being like, wow, what a piece of garbage. To convince millions of moms that he's this amazing hero of humanity, employing a bunch of people who hate you and hate the country and hate him, putting them at the highest level, giving the pharmacy lobby the entire health department, which Trump did, paving the way for their corruption, letting them establish an emergency, and then running around the country like a little puppet, selling vaccines for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Yeah, it must be hard. His soul must be on fire because he's a horrible person. And you're a fool if you don't think it's lame. But I don't care. But what if something was going to happen to him? I don't know, like every man in the world? Oh, too bad George Washington wasn't a lazy loser, or else we would have no country. Man, it's really tough, George Washington. Why don't you just sit on the couch and watch the Broncos play football instead of, like, I don't know, creating your own country? Hey, Thomas Jefferson, it's going to be a tough road, so why don't you just sit there and eat cheesy poofs and watch the Raider game? Oh, sorry, Ben Franklin and John Adams. It's a tough road to be a founding father. Why don't you just sit home and get fat and just make excuses? Oh my gosh, every pro athlete ever, it's kind of dangerous to do that, to ride a bike or to play sports and to fight in MMA. Sorry, Mike Tyson, you might get hit in your head and you might get a concussion. So why don't you just sit at home and get massively obese and make excuses for it? Any great man ever takes risk, okay? Stop making excuses for failure and patheticness and deceit. This is why our country gets it, because this is the Republican Party. I mean, what if something was going to happen to him? Like every great man ever who ever took a risk, what happens to pilots in the military? Hey, pilots in the military, it might be a dangerous task. Why don't you sit on your ass and watch Sean Hannity instead and make excuses for trillions of dollars to be printed? Someone said, get uncomfortable. Everything great in this life takes some sort of bravery. So if you're making excuse for cowardice and weakness and betrayal, you deserve it. Stop crying about AOC because you're manifesting betrayal. You're manifesting this weakness. I'm not trying to be rude to this woman, but it's like, my gosh, if you're too weak to listen to my live stream, click the X, okay? Click the X and go somewhere comfortable. But people don't want to go somewhere comfortable because they watch other stuff and they're bored. They watch other stuff and they know it's a lie. Their spirit tells them that, yeah, this is not true. This is boring. This is fake. Anomaly's already said more real stuff than this in 5 minutes than they've said in their entire career. But if you can't handle it, just stop making excuses for weakness. Why I got to call out the Broncos like that? It's just one of the first teams that came to my head. I don't dislike the Broncos. I'm just saying, like, the dumbest thing I've ever heard is like when people are like, oh, he could have been threatened or it could have got bad. So would you do that? If somebody threatened you, would you run around the country for 2 years saying, the vaccine saved 100 million lives and I'm the greatest human achiever, I'm the father of the vaccine? Would you do that if you got threatened? Because that means you're a coward, okay? I wouldn't. Hey, Anomaly, we're going to come after you if you don't lie for 2 years. Then do it. I'm not a pathetic coward. I'm not an evil person. I want to go to heaven. I don't want my legacy to be a complete coward communist fraud like your hero. It's not worth it. He's in his 70s anyway. It's like people are so not courageous nowadays and have no spine. Someone said 100 million. Yeah, watch the videos. He says his vaccine saved 100 million lives. He knows here's the crazy part about it. He knows he's lying. I know he's lying. He knows that we know that he's lying. He knows that his base knows he's lying, but he just keeps lying. He doesn't care because he doesn't respect you. He doesn't respect you because you don't demand respect. There's a bunch of fangirls and fanboys who say, oh, I'm just going to make stupid excuses for it because I have no... Okay, then get failure. then accept your future of decline. There is no, it's not... I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's not nice to do this. And if you're not strong enough, then step aside. It's not nice. There's nothing nice about letting this happen. There's nothing nice about losing and failing. It's not nice. That's not fun. You're not going anywhere. The big brainwashing tactic for lazy right-wingers is, hey, patriots, remember your Bible? Oh, yeah. Well, forget about that and follow this satanic inversion that tells you that Donald Trump is your new hero and he's going to save the whole world. No, that's a lie. Or just make excuses for all of his shortcomings instead of countering it. Why don't you make excuses for Biden's shortcomings, huh? Why aren't you on here? Well, I mean, who knows what Biden's dealing with? He has to do the student loans. Who knows what Biden's dealing with? He has to send the money to Ukraine. Who knows what Biden's dealing with? He has to print all the money. He has to switch to it. You're not sitting here making excuses for Biden. Why not? Because it doesn't make sense to do. You're countering Biden and saying, no, I actually disagree with that. I'm going to vote for the other side. But your side isn't even doing what you think they're doing. So it makes logical sense to just counter that. Instead of, you don't make excuses for Hillary Clinton. You don't make excuses for Pete Buttigieg. You don't make excuses for Kamala Harris. You counter their politics, because that's what politics is. You deserve nothing if you don't counter your own side. You don't deserve anything. Stop watching stuff and thinking you're getting stuff. You're not getting anything because you don't deserve it. People deserve stuff when they stand up for themselves, like peacefully, respectfully. Be like, hey, dude, that's whack. It's not cool to do that. Okay, I won't do it. I don't have a spine, so I'm just going to assume that who knows what you're dealing with to do that. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he got paid off by a lobbyist. I don't know. Maybe a foreign country bought him off. I'm not saying they did, but it's like, who knows? Who knows why Joe Biden's a sellout? It's not like he just grew up that way. Maybe somebody paid Joe Biden off, right? Maybe somebody told Joe Biden, sit down and listen to me. But is your life revolve around making excuses for it? It's just so weak. I'm tired of it, okay? I don't want to get annoyed anymore on my live stream. If you're too weak to listen to what I'm saying, you don't have to be here, I promise. I won't miss you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for all the views, but I promise I will not miss annoying people, and I won't even notice it. Just being honest. Someone said Bryson Gray gets attacked by conservatives for reciting the Bible as it's written. Of course he does, because that's what the right wing is. It's harder for Bryson Gray to exist in the sphere than it is for a left winger. That's what it is. We talk about it all the time, but I'm not trying to be a downer after this fun, optimistic stream, but if you can't handle it, it's just time to go. It's time to listen to somebody else who's going to play Tom and Jerry with you. Oh yeah, Patriot, the right wingers are going to help you. Except, it's the rhinos. It's the rhinos, except for the rhino I'm protecting, because nobody does the reporting. Nobody wants to call out the great vaccine salesman. Your whole party is controlled opposition until people realize that. I went to Turning Point USA. You know what they did? They cheered for Ted Cruz. They cheered for Rick Scott. Woo! That's Turning Point USA. Woo! Ted Cruz. Woohoo! The Beatles are in town. It's losers like Ted Cruz and Rick Scott. Woo! You know what Ted Cruz and Rick Scott did? They voted to send, $50 billion to Ukraine. But you're clapping for these people? Republicans deserve nothing. The Trump movement deserves nothing because they asked for it. And it's not Turning Point's fault. It's the audience's fault. If you buy it, they'll sell it. You're buying your own betrayal. You're buying socialism. You're buying tens of billions of dollars going to a foreign country. You're buying trillions of dollars printed to pay for testing and masks and vaccines. That's what Trump did. And he's the star speaker. Republicans deserve nothing. They deserve Biden. They deserve lockdowns. They deserve Operation Warp Speed. They deserve vaccine tyranny because they clap for it. Woo! The vaccine salesman who gave Big Pharma tens of billions of dollars and gave them no liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths because he put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of the health department who declared an emergency so his old friends in the pharmacy industry have no liability for side effects on their vaccines that they're going to throw down your face. Woo! I'm a MAGA. I'm a conservative. Woo! We're fighting the deep state by cheering for these people. Ted Cruz, the disgusting weasel who just sent tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine. Woo! Rick Scott, who has zero personality, who also just sent $50 billion to Ukraine. Woo! That's the MAGA base. Oh, but it's the rhinos. It's not us. It's the rhinos. It's the rhinos. Let me buy a MAGA hat. Oh, I look so cute. Take a selfie. Ooh, it's the rhinos. Yeah, no, it's you. Your favorite non-rhinos are also rhinos, but you guys don't want to talk about it because it's Coachella. Woo! Ooh, let's take a selfie. Ooh, I look so good next to the Trump Golden Idol. Woo! That's what it is. It's a big hangout session for people who want Tom and Jerry. We're almost at the Democrats. Wait till next year. 4 more years. Oh, we're almost there. Oh, you're never getting there because they're working with them. I just solved the whole mystery. Sorry, you could skip to season 20 now. He still doesn't catch the mouse. Season 25, he still hasn't caught the mouse because if he catches the mouse, the whole show ends. And that's the show. Trump isn't going to catch Fauci. Maybe Rand Paul would, or, maybe like Lauren Boebert might question him or something, but Trump's not. He worked with them. Trump's not trying to talk about side effects because he's in on it. He doesn't care. He's not you. Woo! Rick Scott, everybody. The guy who sent $50 billion to Ukraine, who has zero personality. Woohoo! Boo these people. This is what real success would look like in the Republican Party. Ted Cruz, ladies and gentlemen. Boo! Rick Scott, ladies and gentlemen. Boo! Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump. Boo! That's what success looks like. Not, woo! Betray me again. Why don't I run for office? Because I don't want to. And I don't think that politics is the only way to solve anything. I don't think politics is going to do anything. I think Trump could be a great president if his base grew a spine. I'm not a victim of this situation. I don't think we deserve better than these people. Like, I think the left deserves Biden and the right deserves Trump. And once the right evolves, they'll get a better candidate. If they don't evolve, they'll get Donald Trump again at 80 years old. The Democrats, they don't allow greatness because greatness bothers them, so they deserve a senile puppet. That's what the left deserves. Isn't Joe Biden a perfect representative of the ideological groupthink of the right wing? Old, brain dead. Isn't that what they've manifested, Joe Biden? Go to the right wing. Donald Trump's perfect. Why should I run for office? People got to figure it out. Social engineering is what's brainwashing your kids, not politics. And they're socially engineering through social media. So socially, I think media has an even bigger impact than politics. So I think what I'm doing is more important. But even if it wasn't, it doesn't matter. I don't think people are going to get a better person than Trump until they wake up. And Trump could be a better president if people actually held him accountable. I don't care if Trump wins in 2024. His base needs to wake up. His base needs to wake up. Hopefully, Ron DeSantis runs against him and they argue and they expose each other. I hope that happens. Well, Ron DeSantis did this. Well, Trump did this. Good. I hope they call each other out. I hope they both run and I hope they fight and I hope they expose each other and their ideologies and poke holes in their ideological shield. You know what I'm saying? I don't want them to get into their personal stuff and be weirdos about it, but I'm just saying ideologically, I hope that they clash because I think that's where greatness comes, when two great people go at it, not when one vaccine salesman runs around and lies and his audience claps like seals. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I'm not, but you can lie and say I am. Isn't that what the Republican Party is? Trump isn't who he was in 2018. Everybody knows it, but it's this big game of don't question him, don't challenge him, just keep clapping. Just keep clapping. Don't say it, just keep clapping. Then you don't deserve anything. You get what I'm saying? Until people challenge it. So I don't need to run for office. It doesn't matter. The solution is us. I'm at the point now, I'm sorry for being a little rude today, but I'm at the point now, I literally look at both sides and think like they act like sheep. The left wing acts like complete sheep. It's called Stockholm Syndrome, when you fall in love with your slave master. Oh, Ron DeSantis, please put a mask on me. I hate you, Ron, if you don't mask me more. You have Stockholm Syndrome. Donald Trump, I mean, yeah, he might have printed trillions of dollars and he might be just completely lying through his teeth every time he steps on stage about big pharma, and he did socialism, and obviously he deceived us. But I just want that again. You have Stockholm Syndrome too. It's like two groups of big binky babies begging for their slave master to come back. And I'm looking at both of these people and thinking, my taxes aren't going to go down. They're going to keep stealing me. Neither of these parties have a real plan. I'll vote Republican because it's the better option. But really, I'm trying to think bigger now. I'm prepared. I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm like, I better start making more money. I'm not going to be immoral about it, but it's like my taxes are going to keep going up. Inflation's going to keep going up. Everything costs more. So unfortunately, I got to make more because now my steak is $24 instead of $14. My gas is $100 instead of $70. So I'm like, neither of these parties, they're like big binky babies fighting with each other. Nobody has a real answer. I might as well just really focus on my craft and what I'm doing because I don't think either side's coming to save me. So that's my new thing. It's like, it's not a doomer, but it's like, if this is our base, I have to say I'm a little disappointed because I consider this my side, So I was kind of hyped up. I'm like, damn, we're really crushing. And then the pandemic came and everyone got brainwashed and nobody wants to talk about it. So then I'm like, okay, if this is the right-wing populist movement, if it's a Donald Trump movement and nobody's learned anything, then this whole movement is like a joke. It's like, yeah, you might accomplish a few things, get a few judges, you might eventually come to your senses. Maybe in 2 years, everybody who's mad at me will realize I was right and start like challenging Trump. I don't know. I'm not totally writing it off because I'm like, hopefully some good stuff happens. I'm optimistic. But in general, it's like I'm just assuming that the whole movement's like dead now. It's like they've run into a dead end. They've fallen for a trap. They don't want to admit they're wrong. That's the big energy of the right-wing movement. All of the years of the Tea Party, all of the years of Ron Paul calling out the system, all of the years of people calling out George Bush and the Patriot Act, all of that energy of people who knew that the system is corrupt, Donald Trump sucked up that entire movement. He sucked it up like Kirby and said, I'm the new Ron Paul. I'm the new Alex Jones. I'm the new, anti, corruption guy. He sucked up all the energy and then he ran around the country printing trillions of dollars and selling vaccines. So it's like, it's like playing a video game. Like I got 3 homies next to me that I'm trying to hang out with and we're trying to beat the final boss. And then the 3 homies next to me get sucked up by like the evil Kirby and they just get sucked up. And, I'm just looking at it like that. I'm like, shoot, I thought we were in it together. But since you guys got sucked up by the vaccine Kirby, I guess I got to just do this by myself. I guess our group just got a lot smaller because y'all got sucked up. That's how I'm seeing it now. Maybe he'll spit them back out. Maybe people will join me again, but that's how I see it now. He's taken this energy that's been building for 15 years in this country from people who are calling out corruption, and he's presented himself as, I'm the guy who's going to break it, and he so clearly was perhaps, you could argue in 2020 that he ushered in the Great Reset more than anybody. He was in on steps 1 through 16. He talked about alternative medicines for 2 months, and then he shut his mouth about it once the vaccine came out. And then he never talked about it again. He talked about remdesivir when Big Pharma wanted him to talk about remdesivir. He talked about Moderna when Big Pharma talked about Moderna. He bought Pfizer doses when big government wanted him to talk about Pfizer doses. He's so clearly not our guy, but people don't see it. That's fine. We don't have to see eye to eye, but that's how I'm viewing it. Is my friends and my homies and my movement got sucked up by a fake Kirby and they don't realize it. So we just, we got to go our separate paths, and hopefully we can meet back at some point and be like, okay, now we're back on the same page. But that can't be the page that I'm on. It's not it. Someone said China is now banning Andrew Tate because they want men to be PUSS. TikTok is doing it. Instagram's doing it. TikTok is China, but what people maybe don't understand, it's like liberals in America own Facebook and YouTube and Meta and Google, and they're not really better than TikTok. Like, we are just as bad as TikTok. A foreign country is definitely not like ideal to own all our data and stuff, but I'd be lying if I said I use TikTok and Facebook and YouTube. Like, does TikTok censor more than Facebook? It's debatable. Does TikTok censor more than Instagram? Maybe, but in some other ways, maybe not. Does I would say Twitter censors the least out of everything, but it's like our social medias are just as bad, and they're censoring Tate for the same reason, in my opinion. All right, appreciate y'all. God bless. I'll be back soon, and definitely I got a lot of work to do this week. I have a whole fact checker video. I'm working on a new song with Bryson Gray, so I got a lot of stuff I'm working on. Sorry if it got a little south at the end and I got a little annoyed, but I'm not trying to be rude. I like when people have something to say, but it's like if you don't want to hear the message and you just want to make excuses for stuff, we're not making excuses here, right? We don't want to settle. If this were an excuse making thing, then there's no point of even talking. It's like, here's why Biden's doing all this, because he's not in control of himself and he's corrupt and the system swallowed him up. Okay, then let's talk about cars or sports or something, because there's no point. It's the same thing with the right wing. Just because you like Trump, it's like, who knows what he dealt with? I don't know. Who knows? But what's the point of even talking about it or trying to change it or trying to be part of the solution if we're just going to write him off as if he's just another dummy who has no sovereignty over his own life? If that's the case, then let's just drop it and act like he's not cool. But you can't have both. You can't serve two masters. On one hand, he's this guy who's really going to fix stuff. On another hand, let's just try to spend the next 5 years figuring out why he's running around the country saying the vaccine saved 100 million lives and acting like it's the most amazing thing when everybody, including DeSantis, knows he's lying. What's the point? Stand up for yourself, please. God bless you guys. Appreciate it. I really don't want to have to go back there again. God bless you.